Right, we're live on air, a little later than anticipated. It's 20 to 9 on a beautiful, cold, wet, windy Thursday evening here in the UK. It's just before Christmas, and we're basically doing podcast number 120. I nearly got my twos and my ones mixed up. And this week we've got Gary, who's just done a rather in-depth review of the Nexus 6, and we've got our man Dan, a speed freak, who's gone down to London and done a rather speedy test of the Vodafone 4G network, and we'll hear about those two things in the course of this podcast. I'm Lee, and you very rarely hear from me because I'm always stuck in traffic or doing rather boring things DIY, and I also had a rather major leak in the kitchen this week, which is that's not really something for the website to be talking about. But anyway, so we're just going to have a look. I think, Gary, it'd be great to come to you first, mate, and just give us your thoughts on the Nexus 6. I know we had a rather bulky review, which is a great read that's gone online this morning, I believe. So, yeah, what are your thoughts overall on the Nexus 6, and would you advise people getting one?
So if I had to try and surmise, if I had to try and surmise the Nexus 6 in a sentence, I would say it's Google bringing premium to the flagship. So a lot of things have been said about Google and them trying to hunt down the iPhone or the Note 4 and things like that with the new Nexus 6. However, I don't think, well, they are trying to do that, but I don't think that's their primary intent. I think the Nexus brand has become to the point now where it's strong enough that they can actually justify putting the premium build quality in it. Those of you who have had the Nexus 5, yes, it was a nice device, but it was very, very plasticky, and it just felt a little bit off with regard to the actual build materials. Whereas the Nexus 6, Motorola and Google have done a cracking job with it. I just really like the way it feels in the hand. It's a big phone. There's no escaping that at all. This is not a phone for someone who wants something slim, well, not slim, but small, that's just going to hide away in their pocket. It's a big phone. You want to, and yeah, just you want to be able to shout about it. Other than the actual physicality of the phone, the OS is really, really nice on it. It works really fluidly, as you would expect, with Android 5 and all the improvements that they've brought with Lollipop. One of the things that really blew me away was actually the loudness of the speakers. I'm struggling to find another phone that is quite as loud. And the only one I've been able to find is actually one of the Doro disability phones, but they won't actually play your MP3s at that volume. They will just play some very annoying alarm tones, but they've been designed with safety in mind. So I'm really, really happy. I bought one. I was very close to not buying one, but then I decided, what the hell, let's do it. And I can see that I'm probably going to be keeping hold of this for a wee while. Things will be dictated to me on that front to a certain extent, as I don't need it. It's a secondary phone. But those of you who were listening to the podcast last week will be aware of the fact that EE were offering the 100 gig of data free. So I'm actually going to use the EE SIM card that I got in it. Fairly recently, I got that yesterday. I'm going to use that in the phone for the next 2 months and just see how things are going. Is it going to pull me away from my Z3 and the potential Z4 that's going to come next year? Well, we'll wait and see. But yeah, if you want to find out my full view and a couple of videos of the phone, I do recommend that you go in and you have a read of the article that went up. I put a lot of thought into it, a lot of work into it, and hopefully it will cover all the bases. Favorite feature about the phone, apart from the speaker and the size and the design, which I love all those things. The actual favorite feature is the ambient light, the ambient display tech. This is something that we've seen on Lumia devices up until now, really. And I'm so glad that Google brought it to the Nexus 6, because it really does make a difference in how you use your phone. So, for example, my phone is just sat next to me right now. If I pick it up, then it will actually give me an update on the time, any notifications and things like that, which it's just a really good way of doing that without having to unlock the phone and waste battery life unnecessarily, really. So that's pretty much all I've got to say about it, other than what's in the review, really.
You know what I found interesting, Gary, was the battery technology you mentioned, and I am used to, because I tend to use the phones pretty heavily. I'm used to having batteries kind of die pretty rapidly within almost sometimes a morning, and getting on charge at lunchtime. But I noticed with the technology you mentioned there, you were getting, I think it was almost 2 days. Is that right, or is that just with lighter usage?
So when I used the phone lightly, on the first couple of days, I did manage to eke out 2 days. However, when I was starting to do the video and YouTube uploads and things like that, and I was throwing a bit of gaming into the mix, I did manage to drain the battery in a day. However, with my regular usage, I can see myself getting at least a day and a half to 2 days out of this, with not too much bother on that front. I know that there is phones out there, because I own one of them, the Xperia Z3, for example, that will pretty much guarantee you 2 days, as long as you're using the stamina mode. But they have done a lot of good work with, they call it Project Volta. They've done a lot of good work with it, but I still think there's room for improvement. I think if they tapped into some of the stuff that Sony were using in stamina mode, then you would be onto a winner, really. But obviously, that's proprietary to Sony, so when we see if Google can pull something out of the bag on that one.
I mean, what I found was it was a kind of schoolboy error, really, with the LG G3. I'd had it for a few days, and I tried, as I think a lot of us do when we first get a phone, we try to be as slim as possible. Only install the essential apps that you absolutely definitely need. And the battery life, I was seeing an epic battery life. It was really, really amazing. And now, you install a few more apps and a few other clever apps that use. I installed a few apps that use GPS location to kind of track where I go on cycling, and also to change the phone and the way it operates, and put it onto silent mode depending on where I am. And it really has impacted battery life to such an extent. I'm now having a sort of a spring clean in the middle of the winter to make sure that all those apps are removed, and to hopefully prolong battery life a little bit more. And unfortunately, these carry-along battery packs, or mobile charging units, whatever you want to call them, have become a sort of necessary evil. No matter where I go, I've always got one in my pocket somewhere. But then I find that those are usually going flat when I need them as well, which is a little bit annoying. So you kind of find yourself still hunting down power sockets, and if you're not near one, it can be a little annoying. I don't know if you got any thoughts on that, or whether you've got a solution to it. And,
I
don't
think
think we're going to get much solar power this time of year.
I think the big thing really is, you mentioned GPS there. As
Yeah.
soon as you put this on GPS, bye-bye to all your battery life. GPS is still the biggest killer of battery life on any phone, never mind an Android phone, Windows phone, whatever. And I have been using this a little bit on GPS, and I do notice an appreciable drain. One thing I will say is the battery saver mode that they have in that you can set to automatically activate at 15%, I think it is. It really, really slowed the phone down. It actually slowed it down to the point where it became more of a frustration to use it than to not have it there. But one of the things that I do really like is the fact that it's Qi charging or QI charging, which it's a real shame more phones don't do it because it really changes the way you actually charge your phones. Now, I'm lucky enough to have a Qi charger at work and also at home, so I'm never really that far away from being able to charge my phone up. And I know it sounds silly, but you don't have the faff of plugging it in, so it feels more natural when you put the phone down, you put it on the Qi charger. It's something I really enjoyed doing when I had my Lumia, and I've been missing it up until now. I very nearly bought the Qi wireless charging case for the Z3, and if it wasn't 50 quid, I probably would have. So kudos to Google for building it in, and something I was a little bit sad to see that wasn't in the Nexus 9, which was a surprise.
Dan, I don't know if I could bring you in here. I mean, we're going to lead on to your activities in London, but I'm always kind of a bit curious. Obviously, you don't live anywhere near London. It's a pretty big trek for you to get there and do these tests and these sort of coverage of these live events. How do you normally keep your phones topped up? Is it a combination of portable batteries, portable chargers, or something else? Or
Normally, if I travel to an event in London, I go overnight on the coach, and the coaches now have plug sockets, so I can listen to music the whole way up, the whole 6-hour trip. And when I get there, I've still got 100% battery. Then I've got a portable battery charger. I've got a few little ones. Some of them I got from Mobile World Congress that Nokia were giving out and things. But I've got I think it's a 5,500 milliamp portable one. I take that with me. And yeah, a lot of it's just kind of really being careful with the battery and not doing an awful lot of use if I don't need to. Or if I've got two phones, I'll make sure they're not both on. I'll leave one off and one on. And then when one's running out, I can kind of swap over if I want to and kind of do it that way. But I definitely think these days a portable battery is a handy thing to have.
so, I mean, I'm currently reviewing it. I think it's an 8,000 milliamp battery. It is a chunky monkey, but that should see, let's say on the G3, that's I think got about a 3,000 milliamp battery. So you should be able to charge it almost twice off that, which is pretty good. But anyway, about your activities in London. So obviously we saw. I think one of the fastest, if not the fastest, download speed that anybody has done over 4G/LTE. And I was just wondering if you could tell us a bit of the story behind that and what equipment you used and what sort of time of day it was, etc. And I don't know if you've got any special techniques for people to try and get the fastest speed possible, maybe out of their network.
Yeah, sure. So a little while ago, probably about a month ago, I did. I think EE just announced their LTE Advanced Network, which they're calling 4G Plus. That went live in London, and the technology can reach up to 300 megabit speeds, but they say that you'll see a max around about 150. The highest I got was 99.5 on that one, which obviously is still very, very quick for a lot of people anyway. But it's almost like having a car. You wanted to see how quick you can go and push it to the limit. So I had hold of a Samsung. I had a Galaxy Alpha. I had a Mate 7 for the day and one other phone, I think it was. And I had a Vodafone SIM card on me, and they've also announced LTE Advanced in London. So I went to I normally do like the bus tour because I always like seeing London, and it's the best way of doing it really. To try and also find out hotspots where you get this kind of signal because it's still very limited. And as it turned out, Victoria Station, where I got to, was the best place. And I noticed it popped up on the way to the underground, so I kind of waited outside for a bit. This was quite early in the morning. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was on the Sunday as well, so very early for a lot of people. And I just kind of started doing a couple of tests. And the big thing on if you're using the Ookla, the speedtest.net app, is the server you choose can make a big impact on the speed you get. So I did a couple of tests and was seeing about 80 to 90, which was good. Then I changed the server to another one, which was more local, it seemed. I can't think of the name. I know it's a London one that begins with NAM something. So I selected that and did a speed test, and I got 120, and then 130, and then the highest I hit was 149.74 megabits per second, which, like you say earlier, I think that probably is the quickest speed I've ever seen anyone talk or post about on a network. EE's press photo they sent out for their launch network was 146 point something, and this was 149. It was nearly 150, and I've never seen anything live like that. You see testing networks where they talk about, in testing in the labs, it's got this kind of speed, and that's with nobody else using the network and things like that. So there's not that many phones at the moment that will support this kind of speed. It has to be what they call a Cat 6 or Category 6 4G device. So ones off the top of my head right now, you've got the Note 4, you've got the Galaxy Alpha, you've got the Nexus 6, the Mate 7, and the Honor 6, I think it's called, or the recent Huawei device. That's pretty much it that I can think of right now. There's not many, not even the iPhones support this kind of speed. And the reason they get this speed is it's the technical part is like 2 bands of 4G. So like you see on this dual carrier HSPA that was quite popular, that had speeds of up to 42, this kind of puts 2 bands of 4G together to increase the speed. So at the moment only EE and Vodafone have launched it in the country because they've got such massive spectrum holdings. So those are the 2 networks I've tried out. But I was very, very impressed. Now, it wasn't just a one-off. I mean, that was the highest I got, was the 149.74. But and I looked through the history of it, and I got quite a few 130s and low 140s and things like that. So look, if you're gonna go and do like I do and do speed tests around to find out what speed you're going to get, obviously the phone will make an impact on it, obviously, as well as the network. The server makes a big thing, so try a couple of different ones to see. I've noticed locally, saying living in Torquay, the best ones for me seem to be Bristol and Bournemouth, but living in London, Newbury, Milton Keynes was a quick one, things like that. But I will say to everybody, watch your data allowances, because it can get quite addictive to kind of push to get the quicker speed. You don't realize it when you keep hitting retry test all the time, how much data you used. And I think at one point on doing the tests, I used like 5 gig in that morning. Now, I'm lucky I had unlimited on that one because it was a test sim, so that was fine. But yeah, if you're going to go around and start doing all the speed tests to try and compare speeds to your mates and things, just make sure you've got a decent data allowance or unlimited if possible, because it can, I think it's like 100 meg or something, or 75 meg per test. So if you keep bashing retry, you are going to really hammer through your data allowances.
Yeah, it's the interesting point. I mean, it's not just the download speed and the download testing facilities are great, because they kind of, it's what we all use to basically see just how fast that network can go. And I think for the networks, it's a double-edged sword, because do you allow those speed testing sites as much bandwidth, or do you try and maybe reduce the load on your network by maybe throttling and tweaking the bandwidth on those speed testing sites? Because if I and say 10 other people are on the same cell here and we're all running speed tests at the same time, it's going to affect the speed for others using video streaming or audio streaming or various other apps that may be trying to get data constantly. So it's a double-edged sword for the networks. I think they want to show, especially Vodafone with that 4G speed test result, that is probably the fastest you're going to get. I mean, there was probably only you using that particular cell, but it's interesting to see just quite how much bandwidth they've got on the backhaul to the transmitter and back. So it's very good test, and I hope you managed to see a bit of London as well, and you weren't just stood outside was it the train station? Where was it exactly in London you got that speed test?
So that test was in the as you walk towards the train station and you're going out of the exit towards the underground, you pass the Vodafone store on your left. Now, the Vodafone store being there is not going to have any impact on the actual speed test itself. So the store doesn't have a booster for 4G Plus or anything like that. It's just a coincidence that there's a Vodafone store nearby. You walk past the Vodafone store to the entrance to the underground, and it's all outside. That's where I actually got the test. I did get to see a lot of London, though. I did get a bit of a cold. Got to meet up with Nirav, who we speak to quite a lot of the time. And I know you went to an Acer event, wasn't it, up in Scotland, and caught up and everything with him quite recently. But yeah, it was good fun. We spent the day going around, and he wanted to kind of see what speeds he can get on EE because he had a Note 4, so he wanted to he's seen kind of my results and wants to kind of give it a go as well. So he had a few technical faults there, so he couldn't get that done. But it was a good couple of days. I could tend to be up in London at least once a month at the moment. Back up again for New Year as well, so that should be fun.
Yeah, and just getting on to the Acer event, basically, to cut a long story short, I went up to Scotland. It's the first ever time, actually, I've been to Scotland. Went up to Edinburgh. I must admit, the first day on the Saturday, it was raining a little, but I was really, really taken by the city. It's a gorgeous place. The second day, the sun came out, went up to see the castle. It's just the people are honest, upfront, and friendly at the same time. It kind of it was. I honestly was in hysterics at a few of the barmen in some of the pubs that we ended up in during our time in Edinburgh. The people are so honest and forthright, and it's refreshing. I think as an English gent, we tend to be kind of a little restrained at times, and the Scots kind of tell it like it is, and I quite like that. But anyway, the Acer event was basically to see if I could keep online and in touch with the world and communicate and do some work on a train, and it is unfortunately all too common, and it's not surprising that our railway lines across the UK are just not based in the same network connectivity that our road network is. It's appalling at times. Unless you have a booster on your train, and a lot of railway networks have this, and Virgin and Cross Country, etc. They'll have a booster on top of the train to help boost the signal slightly, which is good, and it helps you use the internet. And I did burn through a heck of a lot of data because I was using the phone just as if I was at home on my Wi-Fi. But when that signal went and you were literally in the middle of a field, you just couldn't do anything at all. But anyway, I did have a chance to have a look at the Acer Aspire Switch 10, which is a sort of laptop / netbook combo. The screen detaches, and it's a very nice, very well built device, which runs Windows 8.1, I believe. Now, I'm not a big Windows user, not 8.1 anyway. I use in my day job Windows 7 Professional, and I've got used to that. I'm very familiar with that. It's a fantastic operating system. The touch / mouse pads / keyboard combination of Windows 8.1. Once I got into the standard desktop, I was more familiar with that, but I didn't intend to use the interface on the screen and the touch screen unless I actually detached the top half, which basically is your tablet. But to be honest, I just wanted to pick up an Android tablet or an iPad like I have now. It's kind of once I detached that screen, I wanted it to have the iPad or Android tablet interface. I also tested the Acer Liquid Leap, which is a smart band. A lot of these smart bands coming out at the minute try and keep us all fit and healthy, and you basically strap it to your wrist. It tells you the time, tells you how many sort of steps you've done, how much exercise you've done in the day. We were walking all through Edinburgh doing these various challenges and finding out where I think it was J.K. Rowling wrote the Harry Potter books, and all around Edinburgh did a lot of steps, so you can see how many calories you've burnt, and it's a good incentive to keep moving. I know a lot of our jobs nowadays, it's quite high stress, but we're kind of not moving a great deal. So it's good to have this little reminder to say, look, you've only done, say, 200 steps today. You need to do a bit more. So that was quite a good little device. It was a little bit tricky to get set up. It did go into an update state, and if the update didn't complete, it kind of bricked the device, which is we did have a couple of issues where the smart band actually got bricked. But also the Liquid Jade, which is a smartphone, sort of mid-range type smartphone. The camera wasn't so good. The other specs were fantastic. It was a very well-designed phone. All of this is on Coolsmartphone. Just have a look and you can see the various stories, and I've covered each one in turn. It's a very nice looking phone, and I must say it's incredibly sleek, incredibly thin, lovely to hold. It's like a kind of shiny pebble that you find on the beach. The speaker's great. The 13 megapixel camera should be great, but unfortunately it's not. You have to hold it stock steady, and really HDR mode really struggles, takes several seconds to take a shot, unfortunately. And we had a look at that in video as well. So overall it was a great event, I must admit, and it was good to see such a lot of devices all at once and to really put them through the paces. So I was just, I tell you, I was taken more with Edinburgh as a city than than anything else. I must admit, I really do want to go back and take the family. Now, also this week, a device that we actually saw in was it February, Dan? I think at Mobile World Congress, was the Yota phone. I think I'm pronouncing it right, or the Yota phone. It's a Russian company. And basically what they have come up with is that it's a standard smartphone up front. You know, you've got your sort of normal size screen up front, full color. But around the back is an e-ink screen, which basically forms part of the rear panel. And it's totally interactive. You can touch it, you can move stuff around, you can use it as you normally would. Obviously, it's only two colors. It's a monochrome screen. But we've got some video demonstrations of this. So up front you've got a 5-inch screen, I believe it is, on the front. On the back it's sort of a 4.7-inch e-ink screen, and it's got 32 gig of onboard storage. It's got a 2 gig of RAM, and we saw that in action. That actually got announced this week. There's a huge queue for review devices because it is such a new and innovative idea. It's different to most of the other devices you see on the market. I quite like it because I know a couple of people that have their phone as their e-reader, as their book reader. And the one annoying thing with that is the screen's always on. You're always burning up your battery. You've always got the you know, you're always either downloading new books or you're interacting with that screen. There's no chance for that screen to go off when you're reading. So to have an e-ink screen on the back, which can also, by the way, if the battery dies, can show information even if the battery goes flat. It's a really good idea. I mean, I think I'm just raving about it because I like it, but I don't know, what do you guys think of the Yota or Yota phone? You got any thoughts on that one?
The only thing I can really think of saying, I think it's too expensive. It's a nice idea, but £550 to buy one is a bit kind of ridiculous when that's the same price you can get a Note 4 or an iPhone 6 or Z3 or any of those kind of really top-end, high-spec devices. it just seemed to me when I watched the videos of this phone, it seems to be the ink display. Obviously, the refresh rate's kind of different, and it just looked to kind of look really stuttery and everything, and I kind of really didn't like it at all. So I quite like the idea. It sounds quite interesting, but as soon as I heard about that price, I just completely switched off any interest in it at all.
That was the problem. I think the initial pricing that we got was maybe a the usual exchange rate conversion type price, but it was a weird launch. I must admit, it was. We were given all the information on the launch, and it went live. Several other websites carried the launch information, and then we were given a press release saying, "Do not mention the launch until a certain time." So it's kind of weird, but we were given one price and then a much higher price at £555, which is, like you say, Dan, it's a heck of a lot of money. I would like to see it come down. I know it's 2 screens and all, but it's still a lot to ask for, to be honest. But I don't know. Have you got any thoughts on that one, Gary?
I would have to agree with what Dan was saying, really. The price is astronomical. You're not getting a flagship spec phone. You are getting effectively a Nexus 5 with a fancy rear screen. Now, for me, you can buy an Nexus 5 right now for about 250 quid, SIM-free. You can buy an Amazon Paperwhite for 69 quid. That's going to give you both the functionality of both. So you've got your e-reader, you've got your Nexus 5. Yes, convergence is a lovely thing, but really they're mental if they think they're going to sell it for 550 quid. I see that price coming down quickly, and if it doesn't, I see this going to fire sale. And I'm really sad about that because I was really looking forward to seeing where Yota were going to take it, because I remember seeing the Yota Phone 1 when it was released. I think it was 2013 it was released at MWC, but it never came to the UK. So I was really keen to see what they would do with the Yota Phone 2. And I do like the look of it. It looks like a really nice phone, but the couple of things they need to do, they need to sort the pricing out, they need to get Lollipop on it ASAP, i.e. before all the other major manufacturers. And if they do that, they might stand a chance. The third thing they need to do is they need to get a network involved. Yes, there is a small percentage of people out there that will buy their phone SIM-free. However, the vast majority of mobile phone customers in the UK are buying them on network on a contract. So they need to get a network on board, otherwise it's just not going to go anywhere.
Also, Gary, while you're there, mate, I know I've mentioned Windows 8 on this Acer kit. Now, I know you've actually moved to a Surface Pro 3, and are you still using that as your main driver? I know we are kind of a little fickle as sort of smartphone gadget freaks, and we do tend to hop around from device to device. Is it? I mean, it's been all of what, a week? Is it still the same?
Yes, yeah. I've actually owned it for a little over a month now, and I'm still using it every day. My aging 3-year-old MacBook has resigned itself to being a desktop system now, and I'm actually genuinely beginning to question whether I need the Xperia Z3 tablet anymore. Now that I've got the Nexus 6, I've got a large screen Android device. So if I am just wanting to have a quick browsing session on the train or something like that, then I have got this large screen device. But yeah, the Surface is coming to and from work with me every day. The entirety of the Nexus 6 review was written on it, and I very much doubt I would have been able to get it written as quickly as I did on any other device, to be honest with you. I am toying, I'm still dabbling with other ideas. But at the moment, whenever I look at anything, I keep on thinking, yeah, I'm going to stick with the Surface Pro 3 because, I mean, the big thing for me is the lightweight of it, the relatively lightweight of it, and it's also got the touch cover on it, which is backlit. Now, as I mentioned in the article I wrote about my time with it, I do need a backlit keyboard because most of my writing is done at night after my son goes to bed. So that's really a key thing for me. The one thing I'm missing, and this does bug me, is the 4G connectivity. But saying that, I do have 2 high-end smartphones, both with 4G SIMs in it, so I can just tether if I need to.
So we should do a quick roundup then. So, Gary, we've heard about what handsets you're using at the moment, what devices you've got. Have you got any more, Gary, or is that, so you got the Nexus 6, you got the...
Nexus 6, Xperia Z3, that's my phones. Xperia Z3 tablet compact for my Android tablet, and my main computer now really is my Surface Pro 3. And then I've got, unfortunately, I still have to lump around a BlackBerry 9780 as a work device. But hopefully for not much longer. Hopefully I will be able to sacrifice that to the greater good, i.e. put a pickaxe through it.
So Dan, mate, I know I'm not changing as regularly as people think, but I know you're always a bit of a you tend to change your devices quite often. What's your devices of choice? I know you're always a big fan of a MacBook. Is that still the case?
Yeah, so computer-wise at the moment, I've still got my MacBook Air 11-inch, and that's great to take with me to events and things because it does all the video processing pretty well. I think it was the top spec one last time, so it's got quite a beefy processor and memory and everything. So that's plus the backlit keys, as Gary said as well, is really handy for things. Now I travel, like I say, overnight on coaches and it's dark, so backlit keyboard is ideal. I've also got a Chromebook I'm not using an awful lot, but I've got it there for when I need it. Problem I've got with that at the moment is like the video editing and things like that. It's great for web browsing, it's great for doing posts and things, but trying to do any extra editing of content and things seems to be quite tricky, so I don't use it as much. I'm loaning from HTC the Nexus 9 tablet, so I've only had that for a couple of days. I literally ran across London to pick it up before heading on the train home. So that seems pretty cool. It's nice design and everything. I do think it's quite strange how it looks very much like on the back like a Nexus 5, and the Nexus 5 was made by LG and this is made by HTC. But main phone I've got right now, just finishing off any time now, had a slight delay on the review, was the Desire Eye. That was from 3. So if you're listening, you might have seen 3 did a special web chat couple of weeks ago, where some Brendan and Kylie from 3 were doing a live question and answers on the Re and the I, and they actually couriered one to me so I could go on the webcast with them as well. So the review is 99.5% ready to go. I just want to check it over tonight. I have had a Nexus 6. I say had because it was like the quickest time I've sold something on. I really, really wanted a Nexus 6 because I love the Nexus thing. But then when I got it, I just found it was too, I don't know if I'm going to say too wide or just too awkward to hold, or maybe I've been spoiled by using a Note 4. That was like a perfect size, and I really, really wanted this Nexus 6. And then when I got it, I was quite underwhelmed with with what it was. So I emailed some of the team, and our very own James Pearce picked it up off me. So he's enjoying that right now. The device I want to get next I want to get something that's quite unique and kind of stand out, because I go through all the same kind of things as everyone else. And you might have seen there's a Panasonic CM1, which is a high-end camera phone, kind of like you see the Galaxy K Zoom. So it's like a camera but with Android phone on the back. It's a 20 megapixel one with 4K video recording. It's metal and leather. It's got the I can't think what this lens that Panasonic use. I know that Nokia used Carl Zeiss, but Panasonic used something, and it'll come to me in a minute. But it's got a 1-inch sensor like they use on their high-end SLR cameras, like the Sony RX100 and things like that. So that should make really, really fantastic photos. Tried to pick one up in London when I was there, but literally there's only 5 shops in the country that have them. Luckily, my local one in Plymouth has have one in stock, so I'm probably going to reserve that and go and pick that up on Sunday, because I want something that's I want to have a phone that I want to keep for a while, stand out and be a bit different from all the standard phones, and kind of enjoy using something a bit different. So, yeah, be sure to. I'll probably post a lot about that if I do get it.
Yeah, I just had a wee look at that. It looks pretty cool, actually.
It's smart, isn't it?
Yeah, hopefully you'll have that when we finally meet in Barcelona when we all attend in March, because that does look pretty neat.
Well, I think it's a smaller, so a bigger sensor than even the 1020 had. Obviously, it doesn't have the fancy 41 megapixel kind of feature to it, but a 20 megapixel with a 1-inch sensor should make some fantastic detail in the photos. And it just looks really smart, I think. So it's pricey. It's kind of iPhone 6 plus 128 gig range, but where I look at it is that if I get it, I'll keep it for quite a while because it is so different. It's not the standard everyday thing I would go for. Plus, I do love my mobile phone photography, and that's kind of the best one to go for, really.
Awesome.
It looks like a phone it looks like a device that's been designed to be a camera first and then a phone second, by the looks of it.
Yeah, pretty much that's it. Like Samsung did with the K Zoom, and that was a very good phone as well. And that was the other one I was kind of considered. I have had one in for review a little while ago, and that does have a 20 meg camera. I think it was a 16 meg, I think it is, with a Xenon flash and an optical zoom and all that kind of thing. And it is about half the price of the Panasonic, but the Panasonic just seems like a really premium top-end phone. So we'll see anyway. If I do get one, I'll be getting it this Sunday. So I'm sure there'll be lots of posts going up on Monday if I do.
So now that the OnePlus One is available without an invite, is that going to tickle your fancy at all or not?
For me, not at all. I just think the whole way they've handled it's been ridiculous. You had the whole invite-only thing going on for way, way too long. Then you had the whole when people did order them, they had to be delayed because of some printing on the back of the device wasn't there or was wrong, so they had to get them sent back and then get them fixed and sent back out again. And this whole thing, I can't believe they're still doing invites now. It's just gone on way too long. It's a nice idea, it's a nice phone, but I just think there's a lot of other better choices out there now that people already have, and the whole invite thing just really, really did put me off.
Absolutely. Now, I know Panasonic actually decided to leave Europe and abandon ship almost, and it's quite interesting to see this device, and I hope it does well for them, to be honest, because Panasonic with I think it was the Illusia in 2012, they did rather well, actually, I must admit, so quite interesting to see if that comes back.
Well, with the Panasonic, it's, like I said, it's only available in, I think, 5 stores in the whole country. 2 of them are in London, and one of them's Harrods. When I was there on the launch day, should have been the 5th, and when I went to find out if they had any in stock in those 2 stores, they didn't have any. Just lucky that my local one, Plymouth, being so far down south, they have like 4 in stock, and because of the price, it's not a very popular thing everyone's going to walk in and buy. So I can put a deposit down and pick one up, but it wasn't due to come to the UK. It was supposed to be like a Germany and France only, I think. They did decide to bring it to the UK, very limited quantities, so it's quite a limited phone to get hold of. So yeah, we'll see. It looks pretty cool.
Excellent. Right, I think there's just see if there's anything else that we need to cover this week. I've had a look at this VBox TV gateway, which is looking at it right now. Actually, it's an interesting idea, and since I've put the review up, they have been in contact, and they've actually updated it and fixed a few of the bugs that I came across, and they are working on making it a little bit easier to set up. Basically, and you can see all this on the site. It is a box, small box that you stick on your TV or anywhere that you fancy, really, that is near to your antenna aerial cable, your Sky dish, or even your cable input. You stick it into one of the three inputs in the back, and you can combine inputs, and it will stream out the free-to-air content from your satellite dish, from your TV aerial, onto any sort of tablet or iPad or iPhone or smartphone that you have, and you can watch it without any encoding overhead, any weight on your phone. And there's a full GUI recording system. Stick a USB pen in the back of this thing, and it'll record shows for you, and it'll play them back, no bother at all. And the setup process was a pain in the bottom, but they are working on that, and they are telling me that an update is on the way to rectify that. So it's an interesting idea, but how it sits in amongst all the solutions that are already out there with iPlayer, ITV players, 4OD, Channel 5 on demand, whatever it's called, Sky solutions, the Virgin on demand solutions. There are so many offers already out there. It's a good way if you don't want a TV in your room or in a spare room, or you want a TV that you can carry around without having to actually physically sit in your front room, in your lounge, in your wherever you may be. It's a good idea in that sense, and it means that you're not using any of your internet data bandwidth to actually stream TV shows over the web. Yeah, that's worth a quick look if you're interested in that. Also, when I was on the train, I had a look at a Bluetooth keyboard, probably the first Bluetooth keyboard I've looked at in a heck of a long time. It's from a company called Zag Keys, and it's a very ergonomic, lovely, smooth keyboard, and it reminded me such a lot of a netbook keyboard, of a MacBook keyboard. It's a very, just in the sense of the quality, more than, not so much the curvature or anything, but the quality of it, the way it was put together, and to actually write out 2 or 3 full reviews on the 5-hour train journey back from Edinburgh on a tiny little seat back table. I was hunched over like, Hunchback of Notre Dame almost, but it was perfectly fine to type on there. I didn't have enough space to put the stand there, so I used a little stand that I've got. But it wasn't even big enough for a notepad or anything like that. So I think with the way we all operate, and I think Gary and Dan, you're probably the same, we don't have a great deal of spare time, and when we do, we tend to be kind of on the move, or on a bus, or on a train, or sort of somewhere where normally people wouldn't work. And it's good to have little accessories like that to help you work and to help you be a bit more productive, rather than just checking Twitter and Facebook and putting little 140 character tweets out there. So I did like that. All those reviews are on the site. I think, though, for this week, unless Dan or Gary, have you got anything else that you'd like to add to the podcast this week?
No, I've got nothing else really. I've had, the only other thing really is I had the Olixar Baby Boom Bluetooth speaker. Just trying to make sure I got the name right there. I've had that in for test over the last couple of days, and the review should be going up some point next week. Quite a nice wee speaker, to be honest, and it'd be a great stocking filler. So check that out when it goes up. And there is some Nexus 6 stuff hopefully coming its way with regard to accessories over the next week to 2 weeks as well. Other than that, really just kind of going to be trying to wind down to Christmas and then have a bit of a break and up the ante for next year.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sore point for myself. Some of us are working all over Christmas, unfortunately. But yeah, it's. I think I'm going to try and do an end of year sort of wrap up, maybe some of my favorite gadgets and gizmos, because we're getting sent a lot of accessories at the moment to review and to look at, and a lot of those companies are interested in getting their kits out on the website. So it's not, obviously there's a lot of smartphones out there, but there's a lot of Bluetooth speakers and keyboards, and like you've got a Bluetooth speaker there as well, Gary. But yeah, hopefully we can do a wrap-up end-of-year sort of article on that. But no, I wanted to keep it to an hour this week, and I know the main man, James, is on one of his many holidays this week, so you've got me sort of trying to record this. So tune in next week at the same time, or at 7 o'clock, I believe it is, that James does it. We will record it. I think next week will probably be the last one before Christmas, because I think the week after it will literally be Christmas Day, and I don't think anybody's going to be recording the podcast that week. But Dan, have you got anything else you want to add to the podcast this week?
Nothing this week, apart from looking forward to the big catch-up in MWC next year. It's not going to be long now, so I know we're all going, and James is going to go as well. So we've all had our confirmation. Well, I know. Have you had your confirmation come through, or have you not applied yet?
I have applied, but it hasn't come through as yet. I mean, for the guys listening, it's I say this every time, and I think every time I come onto the podcast, I end up speaking about Mobile World Congress, and it's the same with the weekend with Acer. I mean, it's not just a jolly where we all get to go out to Barcelona and we kind of enjoy the city, because as I say to many people whenever we come back, I hardly get to see any of the city. I could be literally in the NEC in Birmingham, because you're just in a huge warehouse where everybody kind of speaks English, and you could be anywhere on the planet and you're running about like crazy to get shots of the latest handsets and the latest releases, tablets, and inventions. Like last year I was particularly impressed with the hands-free sort of navigation system that we saw using, I believe it was near-field radar technology, I believe. But yeah, we'll be having a look at the big releases and also those little stands at the back, because those guys have to pay thousands to go to Mobile World Congress and share their wares and show off their kit. So it's good to go around the back of the stands as well, and right to the back of the halls where the guys have paid a fortune to get there and to show off their wares, and they may have the next big thing, so it's good to show that. But yeah, it should be great, and like you say, Dan, it's just around the corner, so I'll be excited to fly out there again this next year, and before we know it, it will be this year. So yeah, that'll be great. But no, I haven't got my press passes yet, so you never know. As my usual sort of last-minute preparation goes, it could come through a few hours before I fly. Yes, just want to say thank you to everyone for listening to this particular podcast, and as usual, you can leave your thoughts and opinions on the website. Just go to the contact button, and we're all available on Twitter as per usual. You can just feedback to @Coolsmartphone, the main account, and I can't think of all the Twitter accounts right now, but if you want to just get in touch with us, and we'll pass a message on via the Coolsmartphone account. But thanks for listening this week, and we'll be back next week, and you can get us on the podcast feed as per usual.